the Instagram live with Dean Watson earlier to migrate over to our Zoom. So today, which is the third day of our strike series, which is a webinar series that Ms. Bryant created, our program assistant for the Candidate Empowerment Center, created to help to keep our students connected to alumni, particularly as we are dealing with the response to COVID-19. So earlier this week, we had Naomi Bell to talk about maintaining a well-balanced lifestyle. Yesterday, we had Vance McGee to talk about classroom management. And today, we are excited to have Latasha Jones, who is going to share with us her experiences as a first-year teacher, which can be extremely difficult, challenging, but rewarding as well. So as our format has been all this week, we will let our presenter speak, and then we will have questions after Latasha speaks.
Okay, so hi everyone. So let me start by saying I am super duper excited. I love all things like this. So when Ms. Bryant asked if I would do this, I didn't even have to think about it. My first response was, of course, I would do it. Because when I went through my program at FAMU, things like this was not set out for us. I wouldn't say we went in blinded when we went into our internship or our first year, but I just really wish we had something like this to kind of ease us into starting our first positions. So like my bio said, I actually interned at the job site in which I'm teaching right now. I'm actually right next door to my interning classroom. So I was able to see my interning teacher a lot, and she kind of helped bridge me from being an intern to becoming a full-time teacher. So like she stated, we're going to talk about surviving your first year as a school teacher. So the very first thing that is like the most important thing is to make sure you document. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to document. When we talk about documentation, we're talking about writing down exactly what happened. As a teacher, even though people think, oh, this is the best field ever, you are going to have those parents that are going to come in and they're not going to like something that you're doing in the classroom, or they're not going to like something that you say about their student or your child, whether you're telling them, oh, student in the classroom, they're not going to like it. You are going to have those parents that kind of become just a little hostile with you. And I know it's human nature for if somebody to be hostile with you, you want to retaliate and become hostile back with them. Being a teacher, no, we can't do it. With us, we have to apologize and say we understand what they're going through. Sort of put yourself in their shoes, but you need to document everything that occurred between you and that parent. You need to write down the date in which it happened, the time it happened. It wouldn't even hurt if you write down exactly where on campus it occurred. You're going to have problems with you and another teacher. It's inevitable. It's going to occur. Document it. It's going to be times that your administrator may seem as if it's a conflict between you guys. You need to document it. This documentation will save you if you're ever in this situation. Like, it will save you. I've had instances where I had to use documentation of things that occurred between me and a parent, because when she went to the front office, it was totally different from what actually happened in the classroom. And my documentation is what my principal went by, and that's what allowed him to sit there and say, okay, this is what occurred because I have this documentation in front of me where Ms. Jones documented this happened at this time and at this location. So always, always make sure you are documenting everything that is occurring in your classroom between you and a teacher, you and a parent, even you and a student. If you feel like you need to document that, document it. If your mind ever say document it, follow your mind and document it. The next thing, it may seem small to some, but it's very, very important. Make friends with your custodians and your front office staff. Your custodians and your front office staff, they are the busy bee behind everything that keeps that school running. I've had instances where I've seen other teachers talk down to our custodian staff because they're just the janitors. Please, 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 please don't ever do that. Your janitor can get you things. That extra roll of paper towel you need, your janitor can make that happen for you. That extra thing of toilet paper, that janitor can make it happen for you. When the child gets sick in your classroom, 9 out of 10, your janitor is going to be that one that comes in to clean up that area. So always, always make sure you respect your janitors. The same way for your front office staff. They are the ones that make your copies if need be. Or they may be the ones that step into your classroom if you ever become sick or you have a family emergency. Please make sure you are respecting them as if they are other teachers on campus with you, because you're all there for the same reason, to protect the kids and to educate them. Do not belittle them because they do not have the teacher, the comma teacher behind their name. Please don't do that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You are not going to know everything. I mean, I know we're taught all the time that every day you learn something new. And when you become a school teacher, that becomes very, very true. Every day you're going to be learning something new. It is okay for you to walk up to the teacher next door and say, well, I've seen that we have this coming up. Can you explain to me what this entails? I'm telling you, do not be afraid to ask for help. Don't be walking around thinking you know everything just because you're fresh out of school. That means absolutely nothing when it comes to being a teacher. You need to be willing to get help. And it's okay for you to tell a parent that you don't know something, but as soon as you find out the answer, you will get back with them. Do not give them false hope. Just let them know, well, as of now, I don't know the answer to your question, but I will look into it for you. That's like your number one thing. I'm telling you, trust me. I know everything is coming at you a lot today. And especially, like I said, for your first year, you're going to be nervous. Been there. You're going to be scared. I've been there. You're going to feel like I'm not good enough for this position. I've been there. So trust me when I say, do not be afraid to ask for help at all. And that leads us to believe in yourself and your abilities. You are in this position for a reason. You are in your school site for a reason. So you have to believe in yourself and trust in your abilities of being a teacher. One of our professors, when I was at FAMU, she always told us that you have to be your biggest advocate. That is so true, and it leads into your classroom. When it comes to your students, you are their biggest advocate. If you feel like a student needs a service that's not listed on their IEP meeting or everything, you need to be that student's advocate. You need to reach out and fight for that student. I mean, you know your student better than any other teacher knows your student in your classroom. Believe in yourself. Believe in that I know this students need this service, so my student is going to get this service. Do not take no for an answer, and especially not the first no. There's always a yes behind that no. You're going to have to keep fighting for that yes. Don't just take no and just lay down with it. No, ma'am, my student needs this. My student is going to get this. Parent-teacher communication. Always, always, always have that door open for parent-teacher communication. The more you and your parents talk, the better your students will be in your classroom. I'm at a Title I school. I have 15 students in my classroom. I know pretty much all of my mother and fathers of my students. I'm a very, very bubbly person, so I love to engage with everybody. So whenever my parents come in, no matter what I'm doing, I can be writing on the board or emailing somebody. I always stop so that that parent can have my undivided attention. My parents know that whenever they need something, whether it's for their student or for themselves, they can call Ms. Jones, and Ms. Jones is going to try her hardest to make it happen, because I do have a really, really good relationship with my parents. A lot of my kids, I go to their birthday parties because their parents feel comfortable enough of sending me a text message and saying, hey, such and such is having a party today and we would love for you to come. I'm not saying you have to give your cell phone out to your parents. I'm not saying that at all. I give my cell phone number out because I want to make myself available to my students and to my parents whenever they need my assistance. But you do not have to give your cell phone out. That is just a personal preference of mine. And I got it from my interning teacher. That was something that she did. She gave her number out to her parents so that whenever they needed something, she was always available to them. Like I said, you don't have to do it. It's a personal preference, whatever you want to do. A mentor teacher. Some schools give out mentor teachers. My school, when I started, I did not get a mentor teacher at the moment. So I found a mentor teacher. I went to the kindergarten teacher who was the team lead. She had been there for 25, 26 years. I went to her and asked her if she could be my mentor teacher. I wanted somebody who had basically seen and done everything in the field. I wanted somebody that was gonna take me beneath their wing and train me to how I needed to be the best teacher that my kids and my environment that I was working in, what they needed. I wanted somebody who wasn't gonna be afraid to criticize me and correct me if I was wrong. I didn't want a teacher that, because I was young, would just let me do whatever I wanted to do. I did not want that at all. I wanted somebody who was going to ride me as hard as I needed to be ridden in order for my kids to excel. I wanted a teacher that was going to come to me if they saw me doing something wrong, just walking my kids somewhere. I wanted somebody that was going to pull me aside and say, well, this is how you should have done it. I noticed you were doing it this way, but maybe next time let's do it that way. That's what I was looking for in a mentor teacher. So you have to sit down and figure out what exactly you're looking for in your mentor teacher. Once you figure out who you're looking for, then you need to look at the persons that are on your campus and see which one of those teachers fit the qualifications and which you are looking for in your mentor teacher. The next thing, if you have suggestions about school improvement plans, speak up. Just because you are new does not mean that you can't have an opinion or you don't have a voice about what occurs on your campus. If you know of different ways in which the school can raise money to do certain things, speak up. Go to the PTO meetings and the SAC meetings, voice your opinion. Just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you have to be silent. You have a voice just like everybody else. Please utilize your voice. A lot of times they're looking for individuals to step up to the plate to take on that responsibility. You can do it. You come for FAMU, so we know you can do it. FAMU groomed you for things like this. Like, this is your time. This is you. The next thing, do not be afraid to say no, because you cannot please everyone. Your first year, you feel like you're obligated. Well, I felt like I was obligated to do everything that was thrown at me because I was a fresh teacher, straight out of college, graduated in December, started working the next couple of weeks later. I felt like anything they threw at me, I was obligated to do it. That's not true. You know what all you can do. You know what you're capable of. You know how your life is going. You have to find the common ground and that balance. Do not take on more than you're capable of doing. I mean, because like I said, my first semester, everything that came my way, I felt like I had to say yes. I felt like if I said no, I was letting down my mentor teacher. I felt like I was letting down my interning teacher because I was right next door to her. And I saw her being involved in everything on campus. So I felt like that was something I had to do. And I literally almost broke myself. I was at school to 8 or 9 o'clock at night and then going right back early the next morning. Please do not do that. It is okay for you to tell people no and to actually mean it. It is okay for you to maybe not do something this school term, but pick it up the next school term. Do not let anybody tell you that you're obligated to be on this committee and that committee and do this after school and that after school. That was my hardest thing, was saying no and actually meaning it. So I wish somebody would have told me coming in as a first year teacher, you are not obligated to do all of this stuff. You have to know your balance. You know what you're doing in your own personal life, and you know what you're doing in your work life. You have to make sure there's a balance between both of them. This next one is something I struggled with a lot. I remember I called Dr. Davis, Sharon Davis, one day, and I cried about it. You are not going to be able to save every child in your classroom, and that does not make you a failure. If you can see growth in at least one of your students, take a bow, you've done it. I'm very, very passionate about my kids. I call them my babies or my crew. And I remember I saw growth in all of my students except for this one particular student. And it bothered me so much because I wanted him to be on the same level as everybody else. I fought hard for all of his services that I knew he needed. I even tried to become his tutor after school. Like, I was telling his mom I can stay late on certain days to really, really work with him because I know he can do it. I know he can excel, but he just wasn't picking up on the concept of what we were doing. And when the year ended, he just didn't make the same as everybody else, and I felt like a complete failure. Like I said, that was my first year. I started in the middle of a semester, so he was already really low in comparison to the other students when I got there. But that part wasn't registering to me. The only thing that was registering was all of these kids are on this level, and he's not on that same level with me. That, when I say that really, really hurt me, it really, really hurt me to my heart. Like, I cried for maybe like a day or two over this one particular student because he just wasn't there like I thought he needed to be. And like I said, I remember I called Dr. Davis and I was like, I'm the worst teacher in the world. He's not where I want him to be. He's not where he's supposed to be. And she said, but Tasha, did everybody else make growth? And I was like, they did, but, and she was like, that's it. As long as one of your students has growth, you've done it. You are not going to be able to save everybody in your classroom, and that does not make you a failure. That was the hardest thing that I had to accept, and I have finally, after third year, I have finally accepted that all of my students are not going to be, well, my school say blue zones, so all of my students are not going to be in my blue zones, and that's okay. As long as I see they've made growth from that red zone, I've done what I've come to do. All of your students are not going to learn in the same exact way, and that too is okay. This is where the fun comes in. All of your students are not going to be visual learners. Some of them, they have to actually put their hands on things for them to learn. That's where your fun really comes in, because you get to find all of these different approaches and these different techniques that you can use in your classroom so that that student can actually learn. They call my room at school, the fun room. I have the really, really bright room where kids can touch things and they can be on the computer listening to different things. They can be using Play-Doh to do certain things. Some of our kids are reading. There's music in certain areas. And I do it because I know all kids learn different ways. I'm a visual learner, so you have to be in front of me demonstrating it for me to learn it. But I have certain kids that music sparks stuff for them. So I put them in the area with the music. This is, like I said, this is the part where you get to have fun. This is when you step outside of your textbook and you actually sit down and you learn things with your students. It's almost like the saying that everybody, a little cliche saying, broken crayons still color. And they do still color. You just get to use them a different way. And it's the same way when the kids start learning. They can still learn. They're just learning in a totally different way. Self-care. Always take time for yourself. It goes back to you can't do everything, and it's okay to say no. Don't put too much on your plate to the point that you're about to have a meltdown. It's okay to take a day and call it a personal day, and to just go outside and scream, or go to the nail shop, get your nails done, get your hair done, get a massage. Just take a personal day, because teaching is a hard career. People think we just sit back and we watch TV all day, or we play all day, or the kids read all day, and we know that's not true. So it's okay for you to take a personal day, and don't feel bad about you having to take a personal day. It's life. Don't compare yourself to other teachers. You are not going to teach the same way the teacher next door teach. That does not make you a bad teacher. You are not going to teach the way your professors at FAMU taught you. That's okay. It does not make you a bad teacher. You have to do what's right for you and what you feel comfortable doing. Don't let nobody make you feel like there's this guide and you have to just directly follow that guide. That's not true. Everyone teaches a totally different way. Me and my friends talk about it all the time, because a lot of us are teachers. We're at different schools, and some of us are actually teaching the same grade. We teach the same exact thing on the same exact day, but if you walk into our classrooms, it's going to be totally different, and that's okay. Each one of our classrooms has growth. Each one of our classrooms, our students are structured. They know how to act in our classroom. They know what time to do this, what time to do that, but we're teaching totally different, and that's okay. Do not compare yourself to other teachers at all. You are not Miss Jones, and that's fine. You're not Miss Richardson, and that's fine. You're not Miss Moore, and that's fine. You're Miss Smith, and you be the best Miss Smith that you can be. The best, the very best. I think that's pretty much it. I told Ms. Bryant I didn't want to take up a lot of you guys' time. So if there's anyone that have any questions that they want to ask right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Latasha, for sharing those life skills with us about adjusting to your first year of teaching and some best practices. Do we have any questions from current students? We have a lot of interns who are on this call today. I'm sure they may have some questions. Either you can post them in the chat or either ask them directly to Latasha.
So I have a question. What was something that you learned within your first year that you may didn't get through your internship about classroom management and behavior management within the classroom?
Let's see, classroom. Okay, so my teacher, the classroom that I was in, I interned in kindergarten with Mrs. Kyler. She's Mrs. Gavin now. Behavior. The one good thing about her classroom, she didn't really have a lot of behavior issues in her classroom. The very first day, she laid down her ground rules. She let her students know when they can't, like once their parents left, she let them know her expectations of them. She let them know that this is what we're gonna do and this is what we're not gonna do. And to me, it was amazing how those little kindergarten students, they knew exactly what to do once she laid down her ground rules. She spent the first 2 weeks not teaching, but going over her procedures and her rules and what she expected of her students. And that was something that I took to my classroom, is that my first week or two, I always went over what I expected of my students. I let them know that this is what we were going to do, this is what we were not going to do in our classroom. And I feel like when you get your classroom, do the same thing, lay out your expectations. Even though as much as kids don't like rules, they need structure. And they actually want structure in their classroom. So just make sure that You are constantly going over your behavior. Even if it's the middle of the school year, do not be afraid to go back, enforce your rules. Anybody that's on here that's ever taught like in elementary school, even high school or college, when you come back from that Christmas break, it's like the first day of school all over again. Your students have forgot everything that you told them about behavior, about rules in your classroom, and you have to go back and reinforce everything that you went over the first week of school. I took all of that into my own classroom. My room, I have maybe 11 boys in my classroom and only 4 girls. So it's a lot of wrestling that want to occur in my classroom. It's a lot of hitting that want to occur in my classroom. And on the very first day, like I sat my boys down and I explained, we don't wrestle, we don't hit, we don't fight, we don't kick. That's not things we do here at school. It's going to be hard. It really is. Don't think that it's going to be a walk in the park when it comes to your behavior because you have a class full of girls. Not true. Girls act up just as much as boys, sometimes even more. Someone sent a question saying, as far as your first year, can you discuss not being placed in the grade level that you may have wanted? Or is there a chance to be placed where you like to teach as far as grade level? Well, I didn't. I never saw myself teaching pre-K. I always said maybe first grade or second grade. So when I went into pre-K, I had the same misconception that a lot of people had. This is daycare. I'm basically doing daycare. I went to school. In my mind, I was like, I went to school too long. I studied too hard to become a daycare teacher. It's all about what you make it. I don't consider my class daycare, now that I'm in there, year 3. My students, before we left, before this break, my students working on adding and subtracting. And it was a huge adjustment for me to have this mindset that I'm going to be a first grade teacher or I'm going to be a second grade teacher, to me getting hired saying, okay, I'm going to be in pre-K. At the end of the school year, they give you a choice. They give you a piece of paper and it has the numbers 1, 2, 3 on it. And they ask you to place in order what grade level you would prefer for the upcoming year. So it's your choice to write down whether or not you don't want to be back in your state grade, but there's no guarantee that because you write 3rd grade as number 1, that you're going to be in 3rd grade. There's no guarantee that you're going to be back in your same grade. Every year I put down pre-K because I have honestly enjoyed being in pre-K. But there's no guarantee that every year I'm going to be in pre-K. And they're not going to just move you without saying, hey, we're thinking about moving you to this grade. Because I have had that talk last year where they asked, would it be okay if I went to another grade? But at that time, I felt like I was still needed in pre-K. So I said, well, no, not this year. I really want to stay where I am. I'm really enjoying the growth that I'm seeing each year in my students. Because with pre-K, sometimes I have my kids for 2 years. Sometimes I have them for 3 years, depending on their birthday and when exactly they came into the school. Another question. So aside from your student you felt you couldn't save, do you have a bigger success story, one outside from the rest of the classroom, that did well that school year? Okay, so like I said, I have pre-K. Pre-K is considered ESE. It's not the typical ESE. My students are considered developmental delayed from 0 to 6 years. And I do have students that are autistic in my classroom. I had a student that when he first started, he was really, really low in his development. Like I said, we do color zones. We have a red zone, a yellow zone, a green zone, and then a blue zone. Our red zone is really, really low in our classrooms, and then your blue zone is that they're at the top of your classroom. So I had a student that came, when I took over, he was in the red zone. He had to do 2 years of pre-K, so he did a year and a half with me because I came in the middle of the semester. when he first started, he was at the bottom of the red zone. He knew none of his letters. He could not write. He could not even hold a pencil the correct way. He could not recognize his name. And by the time he left to move on to kindergarten with me, he was one of my top students. I used him for peer teaching, and we do peer teaching in pre-K. We used him for one of our peer teachers to help other students learn the correct way to grasp their pencils. We used him to walk around the classroom, teaching students the correct way in which they needed to use our scissors. He ended up being our student that spoke at our graduation ceremony as the valedictorian of his classroom, because he had made so much growth that he went around the other students. And the way that we got him on that level, I was working with him before school and then after school. His mom had 5 other kids, and he was the youngest, and she was a single parent. So he really was not getting any extra help at home. She even told us she didn't really work with him because he was the youngest and it was just pre-K. So that was an initiative that I took to step up to the plate and to get him extra work. He's actually in 2nd grade this year, and he has been on the straight A honor roll ever since the 2nd semester of his kindergarten year, where they actually started to get grades. How are you adjusting to the digital learning, and how does that affect the structure you had in the classroom? So this digital learning is so new, and especially to pre-K students. You guys can imagine how hard it is to get pre-K students, which are 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds, how hard it is to get them to calm down and sit on the circle for circle time. So it's even harder to get them to sit down to actually use Zoom. And my students we are considering using Zoom like we guys are talking now. I have talked to some parents to see if they would be willing to assist their students on getting onto Zoom. Out of 15, we've gotten 12 yes response that they will be willing to help their student use Zoom. We are still teaching as if we are in the classroom. My students still have assignments as if they were in the classroom. We are still doing circle time. We are still counting to 100 by 1s, 10s, and 5s. We are still working on our letters every day. I send them videos so that they can see Miss Jones counting to 100. They can see me working on tracing my name. They can see me working on my addition problems and how we're trying to figure out what do we have to do to make it happen. They are still working as if we are in the classroom. The only difference is they cannot reach out and touch Ms. Jones. Their assignments are still due at the same time as if we were. How did you get your parents involved in their children's learning? So I'm really, really competitive. I love anything that has a competition to it. So we do competitions in my classroom a lot, and we make our parents get involved. We may send home a letter because it's only 2 pre-K classes at my school, and we work together. We do everything together. We may send them something home telling them that we have competitions coming up, Miss Jones class versus Miss Wise class. And in order for us to win this pizza party, you have to do A, B, C, and D with your student, document it, and bring it in. You will find that your parents love fun things like that. Don't always send them something bad in their folder about their student. Like, send something fun or something great about their student. They will want to get involved. Nobody wants to hear all the time that my student is doing bad or my student did this, my student did that. So what we do is we flip it and make it fun and interactive for our students and their parents. So the parents are willing to come into the classroom, or the parents are willing to get involved with their students' education. We also do, I know back in the day we used to have the AR with the Pizza Hut and then get the little personal pan pizzas. So we still do that at our school because, like I said, I'm at a Title I school. So we still do that. And so the way that we do it is we have sight words that our students have to learn by the time they get to kindergarten. So what we do is each week we make it a contest. We do a spelling test on Friday, but we make it a fun, interactive spelling test where the parents have to, throughout the week, show us different videos that their student is doing with their sight words. Like, oh, the student may have to spell out the sight word go using cut up newspaper that they had at home. And it's just a way for our parents to have to sit down to do things with their kids. We know parents are super duper busy. We know everyone is busy, but it's just a fun way so that our parents will have to interact with their kids. And like I said, it goes back to parent and teacher communication too. Have a good relationship with your parents. If you have an amazing relationship with your parents, they're willing to go above and beyond when it comes to you and to their students. They really are. Okay, that was somebody asked the same question about adjusting to the digital learning. Let's see, do we have any other? When you were a first-year teacher, was it difficult establishing how you wanted your classroom to be structured? Do you feel like the COE prepared you for that? Okay, I don't think it was difficult establishing how I wanted my classroom structured. With FAMU, you know, you have a lot of observations and a lot of interning that you have to do. With me, every classroom that I went in to observe, I always looked at the way they had their classroom set up and structured. I looked for the different ways they had the kids interacting with each other. Like, did they have the blocks near their books, or did they have their art station near their computer? And then I always wanted to know why they had it laid out that way. I'm a person, you can't just tell me something. You have to explain to me why you have it set up that way. So I always went to that teacher and asked them what was the reason behind the way they had their room structured. Did the COE prepare me for that? They did, by sending me out to all of these different rooms. They did. And I didn't always go to the same grade level. I've done observations in 5th grade. I've done kindergarten. I've done first. I've done second. So it was fun to see the different levels in which the class, no matter what grade it was, there was a method behind why the teacher had their room situated the way it was and why they had their room flowing the way in which it did. And I felt like the COE, they did. And then they also sent us to different schools. I didn't always go to Title I schools. I went to the DRS, I went to Conley, I went to Springwood, I went to Astoria Park, I went to Deer Lake. All of those schools are totally different, and it gave you a totally different insight on other people's classrooms. So whenever you are going into other classrooms, make sure you are always looking at everything they have set up in their classroom. Make sure you're asking questions about why they have certain things placed the way they have them. Make sure you ask them, you know, why isn't this type of a center next to this center? Like, because there's going to be a reason behind why they have it, and it's up to you to actually take the initiative to find out. Don't just, oh, I'm just going to do this observation so I can get Dr. Newell hours out the way. Or I'm just going to do this observation so I can get Dr. Allman's hours out the way. No, everything is a learning experience. Like, literally learn from the time you walk into that classroom to the time you leave that classroom. How has your classroom management changed as a result of your experience? It really hasn't changed. I like to say I'm that young teacher that everybody thinks, oh, she's just so sweet, so pleasant. I am actually believe it or not, I'm actually a no-nonsense teacher. I have been that way even in my intern site. I was a no-nonsense teacher. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I normally, on any given day, I have older kids in my classroom because of behavior issues. I'm just that person. I have always been that person. I will smile and I laugh, all fun and games. But when I'm serious, I'm serious. And when I come to the structure and the management and the behavior of my classroom, I'm serious. When I say something, I expect for my kids to do it. I know people say they're young, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. That's true, but there's a time and a place to do certain things. And when we're learning, that's not your time or your place to socialize with your friends. When we go outside to the playground, you can yell, scream, and play all you want to, just not in Miss Jones' classroom. And like I said, I have always been that way. And it's funny because as much as a no-nonsense person I am, all of my kids love me. I have talked to every last one of my kids, maybe about 2 or 3 times a day on their parents' phone on FaceTime. Like I said, because kids, they want structure and they want rules. They honestly do. Yeah, and it seems funny, and it really does. But yes, they want structure, and they need the structures and the rules. I didn't say you had to go in yelling and screaming and all of that, because it really doesn't take all of that. I don't yell at my kids. I don't scream at my kids. I have an older para in my classroom, and she like to say, I give them the mama look. I will literally look at my kids and they will stop what they're doing. Or I may simply call their name and ask them, are you making the right choice? And they stop. Let's see if there's any more questions.
Sharon, Dr. Davis said, can you show us your mama look? And then our
Really, Dr.
final
Davis?
question will be from Amani. Amani wants to know, how is it working with a para?
Oh, working with a para. Where to start? It is very, very interesting working with a para. Yeah, it's very interesting working with a para. The one thing I would say is to make sure you guys are on the same page. Every grade level does not get an individual para. Some schools do a grade level para. With me being in pre-K, I have my own individual para that's with me all day long. Make sure you guys get on the same page. Let her know your expectations, or him or her know your expectations for your students. Clarify day one that if Ms. Jones say no, the answer is no. If Dr. Newell say no, the answer is no. Do not think you're gonna go to one and that one tell you no, and you're gonna go to the other one and that one say yes. You honestly have to clarify that in front of the other teacher. Everyone has to be on the same page. Let your parent know like what you expect from them as well. If you expect them to, if you're in pre-K, change diapers. Disclaimer, pre-K has kids that's in diapers. All of our kids are not potty trained. If your expectation of your parent is to change diapers, you honestly need to let them know that up front. Don't wait until months down the line and then you trying to tell them, well, that's your job. You have to have your clear expectations immediately. When you do your meet and greet with your parent, you guys need to sit down and talk about what you expect of each other, because they may honestly have expectations of you as well. So you both have to sit down and go over your expectations for each other. Respect each other. Like, they may not be the lead teacher, but they're also a teacher in your classroom. So both of you guys have to ultimately have respect for each other. You are their supervisor. At the end of the school year, you have to do an evaluation of your pair, whether they meet your expectations in your classroom or whether they need additional support, whether you need additional support in the classroom. You are ultimately obligated at the end of the school year to do an observation of your pair, the same way your principal or assistant principal come observe you. You're doing the same exact thing for your pair at the end of the school year. You don't get to pick your pair. Your pair is given to you at the beginning of the school year. It's not like, oh, let me get my homegirl a job so she can be my pair. No, ma'am, it's not that way. Your pair is given to you by your principal at the beginning of the school year. Your pair is your pair for the whole year. There's no guarantee you're going to have that same pair the next year. Sometimes it switches. My pair switched. I had my pair to be switched. And that's okay for your pair to be switched. It's not like it's something that you did. Sometimes they switch your pair for the betterment of the school. They may have a better environment in which she can be used on campus, or one of my pair, she just retired. So I'm getting a new pair. Well, I was supposed to get her after spring break, but I'll be getting a new pair when school go back in the fall, because my pair had to retire due to medical issues. What else can I tell you guys about pairs? It's actually fun having a pair. I mean, because you can go to the bathroom whenever you feel like it. I don't have the same experience my friends have when they say, oh, I can't go to the bathroom because there's nobody to watch my kids. With the pair, there's always somebody in the classroom. Your pair is ultimately there to help you, not to be a hindrance to you. Your pair is there to help out with the students, not to be your runner, not for you to tell her or him to go get your lunch, to go do this, go do that, go run errands for you. That's not what your pair is there for. Your pair is there to become additional help to you and additional help to your students in the classroom. Let's see if there are any more questions. I don't know, I think that's the last one.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Latasha. Also today on the call, we had several faculty members, including Dr. Newell, Dr. Sharon Davis, Dr. Allman, also Dr. Patty Ball Thomas. I also saw Mr. Wilson is on the call. So we're happy to have all of you. And of course, we are happy to have so many of our current interns on the call. I noticed if I had to guess, I would say it's probably about 75% or so of the interns on this call. Also, Ms. Shelton, our clinical placement advisor, as well as Dr. Roberts. So we thank all of you for participating. For next week on Wednesday, we will have April 8th, we will have at 3 p.m. April Freeman, who is a 2004 graduate of the College of Education and has spent much of her professional career inside and outside of the classroom in Broward County. She also is a significant contributor financially to Florida A&M University, and there's even a scholarship in the name of her deceased sister for FAMU as well. And then the following week on the 15th, which is also a Wednesday at 3 p.m., we will have Mr. Melvin Middleton Jr., who's a former staff member at Florida A&M University running the TRIO Center. He also taught at Florida State University and is currently at Valencia College. So he will be speaking on the 15th. So if you know anyone else, any other alumni who may be interested, please let them know that they can reach out to Ms. Bryant via email or myself, and we are happy to schedule that. The dean was on the call earlier, but had to step to another Zoom meeting for the National Science Foundation. So if there are no other questions, comments, or concerns, thank you so much, Latasha. Woo!
You're welcome.
And please stay in touch with us, and we'll stay in touch with you. As always, these sessions are recorded, and you can get a copy from Ms. Bryant because it will count for your professional development, or just to kind of see how you did and look back at. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Nubian.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.